Imagine that every time you have to travel from your city where you live to another city, you have to pass through military checkpoints. Imagine trying to go to school, hospital, work, wedding, funeral, or visit friends. You have to be searched, questioned, investigated, humiliated, accused, beaten up, and in some cases getting shot and killed. And if you make it through, passing through the checkpoint, you're either late due to the delay, or you don't reach your destination at all. And you go back home because soldiers at the checkpoint decide to shut it off at that time and send people back to where they come from without caring about their needs. They don't care whether you have a funeral you have to participate in, or you have a doctor appointment, work you have to go to, or lectures you have to attend. All that does not matter. You are Palestinian who are treated as a second citizen, and the details of your life does not really matter to them. I had relatives and friends who got beaten up at the checkpoint and got arrested by Israeli soldiers. And they were not carrying any weapons. They were not trying to fight or resist. They were not trying to talk back or provoke the soldiers. They were just passing peacefully through the checkpoints, trying to go to their destination at another city. Imagine living in a city, in a country in Europe. يلا. Oh my God.
أنا بالغاز. وينها؟ علينا مش علينا. عبيد تقيل عبيد تقيل. وينها؟
حادث. أنا بدي أروح بدي آخذ أغراض وأهرب.
طخ واحد طخ واحد.
Oh my God. We had to come to the studio to continue our show. What you just saw is a real sample of the oppression on us Palestinians every single day. You just witnessed the Israeli soldiers shooting and killing a Palestinian young man right in front of us. It was very frightening and devastating. We had to leave the location to be safe because it's never safe around Israeli checkpoints. Imagine living in a city, in a country in Europe, or a state in the United States, and you have to risk your life every single day trying to go to school, university, hospital, or just you want to go to the beach. Oh, that's right. We Palestinians are never allowed to go to the beach, to the Mediterranean Sea. That's located an hour away from where we live in the West Bank. The beach is only for Israelis and their dogs. We Palestinians are banned from all that pleasure. I lived in different cities in California for several years, and I studied in San Francisco State University. And I used to commute there, which is in another city that's located 40 minutes to an hour away from where I lived. Every time I drove or took the train to get to another city, I used to remember my life in Palestine. And automatically in my head, I used to make the comparison of the details of both places. Whenever I thought of the differences between the life in Palestine and the life in the US, I would go crazy. I would remember traveling from Bethlehem to Ramallah, or from Ramallah to Gaza, or trying to go to Jerusalem, or traveling abroad and having to cross all those checkpoints and border blocks. It's very sad. As Palestinians, we're never free to travel anywhere. Never free. We had zero freedom of movement. We live in a big prison that's called the West Bank, which is cut off by hundreds of checkpoints and roadblocks. Every time you're stuck in traffic in your city, in Europe or the US or in China or anywhere in the world, please don't be mad. Think of us Palestinians who get stuck in traffic that's made up by Israeli soldiers every single day, and whose movement is controlled by Israeli soldiers all the time. The difference is that our traffic is combined with humiliation and harassment. The Israeli government closely monitors the communications and movements of millions of Palestinians in the occupied territories, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza, who have lived under the Israeli military rule since 1967 and inside Israel, making Palestinians one of the most surveilled people in the world. This mass surveillance is part of the complex web of control Israel has imposed on Palestinians, specifically in the occupied territories. The system of control includes restricting the physical movement of people and goods, dividing and isolating Palestinian cities and towns from one to another and the outside world. Israel used biometric ID cards, travel permits, and control of the population registry on the occupied territories to monitor Palestinians. The Israeli military forces at a checkpoint exercise a total control of our movement through checkpoints, including the authority to check the identity papers of every single driver. All Palestinians in the West Bank are required to have Israeli-issued ID cards that are color-coded, affecting everything from freedom of movement to family unity. Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have green IDs, and Palestinians in East Jerusalem have blue IDs. Palestinians with green IDs are banned from entering Jerusalem or other parts of historic Palestine inside Israel's internationally recognized pre-1967 borders without special permission, which is rarely granted. All Palestinians in occupied territories require Israeli permission to travel abroad. At any given time, there are hundreds of Israeli military checkpoints, roadblocks, and other obstacles to Palestinian movement inside the occupied West Bank. Israel denies most Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza the ability to travel to occupied East Jerusalem to visit family, friends, do business, or worship at its holy sites, even though, according to international law, East Jerusalem is not legally part of Israel, and it's considered a single territorial unit along with the rest of the occupied territories. Jerusalem is central to Palestinian national identity, culture, and religious life, and yet most Palestinians are not allowed to visit or live in the city because of racist Israeli policies designated to increase the number of Jewish residents and decrease the number of Palestinians. According to Israeli army, a checkpoint is a security mechanism. However, Palestinians consider the checkpoint a major obstacle to daily life, as the checkpoints prevent freedom of movement in their territory. Checkpoints, and for that matter, the separation wall, are not the sort of fences that make good neighbors. They are a form of violence and will only breed and nurture hatred. The question here is that, do checkpoints serve that security purpose? Israel's legal and moral right to collectively punish, humiliate, and besiege and impoverish a whole nation in order to prevent or reduce attacks against its own citizens by a small minority of people? This is a normative question that can and should be settled by appeal to moral principles and norms of international humanitarian law. Isn't it also the case that collective punishment increases rather than decreases violence and the motivation for violence? Imagine living in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, or Gaza, and you cannot move or travel freely. You feel that you're imprisoned in your own area. You feel choked due to Israeli policies that discriminate against you only because you belong to a certain race. How would you feel? What would you do?